Welcome back to the Response Drivers Podcast, where we feature top marketing minds and dig into their inspiring stories. Learn how these leaders think and find big ideas to push your results and sales to the next level. Now, let's get started.
Hey, I'm Rick Rapé, host of the Response Drivers Podcast. Here I dive deep with marketing experts and innovators to learn how they approach targeted marketing and use data-driven strategies to acquire and retain customers. We'll talk about what's working, what's changing, and how we can stay ahead in an evolving marketing landscape. Response Drivers is brought to you by RPM Direct Marketing. RPM helps companies develop hard-hitting direct mail creative and utilize advanced testing and targeting methodologies to reach customers and prospects. Our goal is to fully optimize your performance so you can drive more sales and exceed growth expectations. RPM delivers smarter, more profitable direct mail solutions so you can turn your direct mail programs into a predictable, efficient sales channel. Check out rpmdm.com to learn more. Well, today's guest is a giant in direct response marketing, Mr. Brian Kurtz. With over 4 decades in the industry, Brian helped build Boardroom Inc. into a $150 million direct marketing juggernaut, starting as a list manager and rising to executive vice president and partner. Along the way, he worked closely with legends like Gene Schwartz, Dan Kennedy, and Gary I screwed that up. Ben Savenga, learning and later teaching the timeless fundamentals of direct marketing. Since 2015, he's run Titans Marketing and launched Titans Accelerator, a thriving community of over 250 marketers and entrepreneurs offering mentorship grounded in experience, not hype. He's also the author of Overdeliver, a must-read on list building, copywriting, and customer lifetime value, and co-author of The Advertising Solution, profiling 6 of the most influential marketers of the 20th century. Brian calls himself a non-extinct dinosaur, a bridge between old school direct mail and today's digital landscape. And his work proves that great marketing isn't about channels, it's about connection, commitment, and delivering real value. Let's get into it with the one and only Mr. Brian Kurtz.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Rick. I was really excited about this podcast just because of your background, in indirect mail, I hate calling it old school marketing because, I take it as a badge of honor when someone calls me an OG, like an original gangster.
Sure.
But the thing when you talked about in my bio about the bridge that connects the old with the new, basically, I'm on the lookout every day for NGs, new gangsters, and the guys who are doing copywriting using AI at the highest level, or the people that are not just copycats, and what happens is everything comes down to the fundamentals, and this because we're cut from the same cloth, coming out of direct mail. That I'm just I feel like, not that we're not better than anybody, but I think chapter 3 of my book Overdeliver. The title of chapter 3 is How Paying Postage Made Me a Better Marketer. And it's not because that direct mail is the be all end all, but in a good chunk of my career and yours, it was basically the medium of choice before the internet and email.
Right.
And so it's just the discipline and what you needed to do before you hit send. Not literally hit send, but mail out 1 million pieces of direct mail that you're paying printing and postage for. It's a whole different mindset, and that mindset carries over even when the media is cheaper, and it's cheaper to market today than it was. So I just think
it should carry over. I mean, I wonder sometimes if digital marketers, the digital medium sort of is easier to create. There's not a lot of cost to it. You can fire something out and it just disappears. If you make a mistake, it disappears. Like, all of these things weren't true with direct mail. So, we had to take these big campaigns
and one thing I
very
always
seriously.
say that it doesn't disappear, because what happens is that if you make a mistake or you send out an email and it's inappropriate, you say, I didn't get any orders, no big deal, because it didn't cost me anything. It costs you. It costs you in reputation. It could cost you in unsubscribes. It could cost you in the next email you send that
Right.
people remember. And it's much harder to track that, but I
Mm.
believe it. I believe it. So
The negative
to
impact.
not
Yeah.
do email with the same discipline as we did direct mail is not a bad piece of advice to give to marketers.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, I want to dig into more about your how you've bridged the gap between traditional print media like direct mail and other digital channels and things like that. But first, let me back up a little bit, rewind to your roots and your early influence. Um, Tell us a little bit more about how an English major from Rutgers ended up stamping envelopes and later running a $150 million business at Boardroom.
I'm not going to say it was luck, but I forged my way early on into a situation where, it was basically I took advantage of the opportunity that was laid before me.
Mm,
And it started with, I was an English major. My parents were unhappy about that, figuring I should be an accountant or a lawyer. I didn't want to be either. I said, I'm going to go to college and I'll learn how to read and write. How's that? And so that's what I did.
mm.
I thought I was going to be a writer. I thought I was going to be a film critic. Who knows what I was going to be? And so I started off like doing amateur leasing for plays, for amateur shows and sending scripts to high schools and theaters. And that was my first job out of college. But there was this one headhunter who I give a lot of credit to, who, like me, and he was supplying a lot of people to this upstart little publishing company called Boardroom. And the first time he met me, he said, Marty Edelston will love you. Marty Edelston was the founder of Boardroom.
Mm,
And he said, you're Marty's kind of guy. You're young, you're dynamic, you have a thirst for knowledge. Marty will love you. And if an opportunity comes up at Boardroom, I'm gonna send you there and hopefully you'll get hired there. But hang tight at your play publishing job. And
mm,
so a job opened up in in-house list management, meaning that, Boardroom was a newsletter publisher, a book publisher. We had
mhm,
lists of subscribers and buyers. And usually when you had a list in those days, and you were in direct mail, you would just give the list to a list manager and they would represent your list in the marketplace. So
mhm,
happened that Marty had was kept the company closely held, and he felt that he wanted to manage the lists in-house. And so there was a job called in-house list manager at Boardroom. And it was the only way to get to the audience because it was newsletters and books. There was no advertising. So the only way to get to that audience and they were affluent executives, the subscribers and book buyers were
right.
affluent. They bought through direct mail, and a
Hmm.
direct mail buyer is a direct mail buyer is a direct mail buyer. So you want people who are direct mail buyers if you're selling in direct mail. Just like if you're selling an email, you want people who buy through email. And
Yeah.
so it's similar, but in direct mail it was powerful. Direct mail, affluent, and they bought through, creative and direct mail packages that were impulsive, and they got people's that they titillated the audience. So
Hmm.
I just felt that this was an interesting little business, this in-house list management. I didn't know what I was doing.
Hmm.
In-house list management, what's that?
Hmm.
And so I was working there, doing list orders for all the different list brokers and mailers, and everybody used the Boardroom lists
I
from,
remember. I did. I remember using it
right.
myself. I
I
think
mean,
in
it was a
several
perfect
different
list. It was like it,
programs.
it had everything going for it, right? So Money Magazine used it, the Wall Street Journal used it, but so
Yeah.
did Hammacher Schlemmer and Land's End catalogs, and so did the National
Yeah.
Republican Senatorial Committee, and so
Yeah.
did disabled American veterans. So it was
Yeah.
like a list, a list of great names of people who bought through the mail, who loved
Sure.
to buy and read.
Yeah, and this was before sort of the days of these massive list compilers.
Oh yeah.
So these types of lists were really powerful in direct mail marketing
Absolutely.
uh before that, you know.
Exactly. And so, I just came in, I worked hard in the list man. It's funny, 2 years after I was there, a job opened up in the editorial side at Boardroom, like,
Mm,
as an editor or something. And I went to Marty, the founder. I said, Marty, I think I'd like that job. And this is another one of those turning points in your career, right? This is how the Rutgers English major ended up, a direct marketing guy. Marty said to me, he said, Brian, and I'm 23 years old. The president of the company is saying this to me. He said, you have a nose for marketing, was the quote. And I said, really? You think so? And I kind of was digging it. I was really enjoying what I was doing. And he
Hmm.
said, yeah, don't waste your time in the editorial side. Stay in the marketing side with me. And I did. And that was like a turning point. And my career kind of took off from there. I became executive vice president, became the marketing director, and marketing director first, then the executive vice president. I got an equity. He made me a partner. I was an equity partner in the business after I was there for about 10 years.
Wow.
And, we built an amazing, you said juggernaut. It was basically a great learning organization. It was
Hmm.
it was just like we work with only the best of the best copywriters, the best of the best list brokers. Marty was he was a entrepreneur classic.
Hmm.
He just did everything the best he could do. He had stationery. He used to send notes to everybody, handwritten notes. He had this big stationery that folded out, and on the bottom it said "Good, better, best. Never let it rest until the good is better and the better best." And he would sign the notes, and that's who he was. He was all about not perfection. He wasn't a perfectionist per se, although he did everything to the nines, but he was
Hmm.
very just industrious, and he was just such a stickler for excellence. And
Yeah.
I learned from the best. And as you said in my introduction, we hired the best. So I had Gene Schwartz, one of the greatest copywriters of all time. He was, writing copy for us, and he became a mentor to me.
Mm.
So a lot of it is right place, right time. How I be answering your question, how
Yeah,
I
but that would be
became this.
downplaying your role in
Well, I took
capitalizing on the
advantage of it.
opportunities and then delivering what you needed to deliver.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But there was something here's a lesson for your listeners that I think, and I've taught this in my groups, that I
Mm.
always say your mentors don't choose your mentors, they choose you. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is that in the case of Gene Schwartz, in the case of Dick Benson, who was the top direct mail guy in our era, Gordon Grossman, who helped build the Reader's Digest and became a consultant for Boardroom, how did those guys become mentors to me? It's because I looked at what they might need and I
Mm.
helped them with no
Hmm.
with no with no promise of quid pro quo, with no promise of anything. And that's what I talk about in my book, Overdeliver, the 100
Hmm.
zero concept. Like just give and give and give. And Gene Schwartz was a great example of someone who had his own little book publishing company. He was a great copywriter, wrote copy for us. But he had this little publishing company for health books. And he had a list broker who was terrible. And I knew all the
Mm.
lists for health books because we at Boardroom we had health books. So I remember telling Gene, "Let me redo your list plan for you. Your list broker is not doing a good job for you. I can give you
Mm.
better selections on the list that you're doing." I mean, I wasn't going to charge him or anything, of course. And, and I did that for him, and he didn't have to befriend me, but he did. And I had regular lunches at his penthouse apartment on Park Avenue, learning at the feet of one of the greatest copywriters of all time. Now, I never became a great copywriter. I don't consider myself a copywriter, but I write copy. I write a blog. I
Hmm.
like writing, but just learning how his mind worked, and it was those things you can't put in a bottle, and you can't put in a book. It was such an amazing ride. And then all the copywriters we work with, and the list brokers and the consultants, every one of them I learn so much from, and I just stood on the shoulders of so many giants. But the
Hmm.
giants were available to me, and I connected with them every chance I got.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like you made the most of an amazing opportunity. So
Yeah, I've had a
congratulations.
good ride. I've had a good
That's
ride.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome. That's how I feel about my time spent working with Bob Hacker
Bob Hacker.
and
Yeah.
Joanne Hacker at the Hacker Group. And I had the weird opportunity we started a little program for AT&T in the Southwest region, and then it became the AT&T national direct marketing program. And in my 20s, I found myself as a VP managing $100 million a year direct mail program.
Yeah, it's like, how did I get here, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
it
yeah,
was a good ride from project manager up the ranks in account services to
absolutely. I
in
get it.
charge of the biggest, the biggest account that the company has.
Yeah, I get
So,
that.
but a great opportunity also to test and learn and figure out what are the guiding principles that all these
Yeah, on the
gurus.
battlefield, like in
Yeah.
you know, you're on the field of play. You're not no practice, you know?
Right.
No, yeah.
Yeah, as a young man, sometimes I felt that I was, you know, out of place and didn't really know what I was doing. And Joanne Hacker told me many times, "Hey, Rick, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king."
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's kind of a funny way to look at things, but it
Yes,
works for
yes.
me. So, hey, what can I
It
say?
obviously worked for you. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Um, well, I want to dig in a little bit more to your direct mail experience before we move into some of these other channels, but because you were managing a huge direct mail program at the time back then, am I
Yeah,
correct?
we were mailing at our height probably 140 million pieces a year.
Good
Um,
Lord.
an individual mailing, the biggest individual mailing we did, I didn't lick every stamp. Um,
Good.
but
That's good.
good thing. But
Yeah,
the biggest single mailing we did was about 9 million pieces.
that's
It was a
amazing.
hot book that we rolled out over time. And boy, what a like, it wasn't a sweatshop, but it was like a direct marketing factory at Boardroom. We had to do everything. I mean, we had all the vendors, the letter shops, and
Sure, sure,
all the
sure.
things, but it was such an exciting time. I mean, it
Hmm.
was so
What were some of the
I
guiding principles? Do you remember some of the guiding principles that you managed the program based on?
yeah, so as far as testing went,
Hmm.
we were great testers. Over
Hmm.
time, we learned, to not make tiny tests. That was from Gordon Grossman. He said,
Mm.
don't make tiny tests. For a
Don't
long
test
time,
whispers.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Because we would do some silly testing. And so that was a guiding principle that we learned over time. So we used to go to our creative meetings and we had a big whiteboard and we put all the ideas on there. And one guiding principle was like, can this idea, we're not going to do, it's a brainstorming meeting. So we're not going to like say that's a bad idea. Although, as we know, in most brainstorming meetings, there are tons of horrible ideas, but you have to make every idea sound good. And oh, don't
Yeah.
discourage anybody,
You
but
don't want to, yeah,
sometimes you
you
just
don't
want
want
to
to
look
kill the
at them and say, that is the
brainstorm right
stupidest
away.
thing I ever heard in my life, right? But it was like one of the guiding principles was like, can this test panel give us at least a 30% lift? How we decided
Mm.
at 30? It's because usually when we rolled out, we sometimes lost half of the lift and response, and a 15% lift was sort of like the minimum that we really wanted. So we had this
Mm.
30% rule. Doesn't mean that we were going to hit 30%
Mm.
lift on every single test that we decided to do, but
Hmm.
having that guiding principle, it made you think, it made you not think in whispers, right? It made you
Right.
try to think bigger. So that was
Yeah,
one
no.
big, yeah,
One of the very first things I do when I get to evaluate a direct mail program, a bigger direct mail program, is a look at how they test, and I try to break it down into kind of a framework and put all the testing that they're doing into different compartments. And I
yeah,
always find that people are doing a lot of small whisper testing and small tweak testing, and they're really afraid of like doing the wild and wacky sort of like let's swing for the fences testing.
yes.
It's pretty interesting that.
Yeah, one of the things that we did also was we kind of looked at um um so I have this expression. I said the list is the least in the creative and the copy and for something is the least important element until it's not. And what I mean by that is
Hmm.
that, there's a rule in direct marketing in back then, the 40-40-20 rule, which
Yeah.
was that the success of a direct mail campaign or direct marketing campaign, it depended 40% on the list, 40% on the offer, and 20% on the creative. So that would say if on percentages, that would say the creative is half as important as the offer or the list. So what I did in my book, Overdeliver, I talked about it in terms of the 41-39-20 rule. And the 41 is the list, the audience, the media.
Hmm.
Because I
Hmm.
learned very quickly, and I came out of the list business. One of the advantages of coming out of the list business in circulation and direct mail was that I didn't come out of the numbers crunching side of it. Not a
Hmm.
bad place to come out of it from the numbers crunching side, but coming from the audience, the list, I saw that if and the reason why I could prove that the 41 should be the list, the 39 should be the offer, and the 20 should be the creative. And I'm just using those numbers to illustrate a point.
Oh,
And the
rank
point
ordering.
is
Yeah.
that
Hmm.
if you have like the perfect list and you have a mediocre offer and mediocre creative, you'll get some orders. It's true today online
Hmm.
as well.
Right.
However,
Yeah.
the opposite is not true. You could have the world-class creative with a killer offer, send it to the wrong audience, you get zero orders. So that
Yeah.
that was my premise. Then what I learned though is working with the top copywriters in the world that once you have your list dialed in and once you have your offer dialed in, then you go for world-class creative, then the
Yeah.
creative becomes the most important thing because the creative is only 20% when you're starting. But if you
Yeah.
have the other two dialed in, the creative, what it does is that and I prove this too, because the biggest lifts in response rate and profit from my career is when we took the big swings, as you said.
Hmm.
We went to
Hmm.
a new copywriter with a completely new approach, and you either
Hmm.
index a 50 of the response of the control,
Hmm.
or you index 150, a 50% lift. And
Sure.
so yeah, that's when you really understand. And then you know that it's not the list and it's not the offer. That's not your problem. Then you know it's all in
Hmm.
the creative. Also, one
Hmm.
of the other guiding principles is single variable testing.
Yeah.
That's something that gets lost in online marketing today
Yeah.
because you want to know what you're testing is whether it worked or it didn't. And if you're so when you're doing a full-blown creative from a new copywriter, you can throw anything at it. You don't you're looking at a new package, new promotion, everything can change. That's
Yeah.
not single variable testing. But if
The
you're
entire
looking at one
variable
item,
is the whole package.
no, single variable is only one item in the package. So the
Oh,
single variable would
right.
be like just the price or
Right.
just the headline or
But if you're
just
testing a whole new package, it's like
you don't have to worry about single variable.
It's an A/B test. It's a
Exactly.
either this
Exactly.
package or that package. Not
Exactly.
You're
And
not
then
trying to learn about copy points or
well, you're not
anything.
tweaking. You're as
Right.
you said, you're not tweaking,
Right.
you're doing major testing. But
Right.
I think that when you're tweaking and you're doing little things, not whispers, but things, look, if you're testing like a price versus a four pay price, that's a
Mhm.
significant test because it could
Yeah.
change the whole we our books were like, generally 29 or $39, but we would constantly be testing three installments at 9.99, three installments at 14.99. And sometimes you get the total price up through an installment price. That could be
Mm.
big bucks to the bottom
Mm.
line. But you have to test that, and everything else has to stay the same. That's single variable testing. But the
Right.
biggest lifts were always from new creative, from a new copywriter. And that's what I mean by, the creative is the least important until it's not. And using
Yeah.
this 49, 39, 20 rule as a guide was probably one of the single most important guiding principles. Another one, which is guiding everything that we do in marketing today, is the concept of lifetime value. You have to
Yeah.
have, we did Dick Benson, who was our direct mail guru. He was like he had this he had the bogey concept, and all the bogey is how much you can afford to lose on your first order to make it back in some time in the future that coincides with your cash flow, with what you can afford, and you have to really know your numbers, right? In fact, I have
Mm.
something on my wall right now, which is from the War Room at Boardroom, and I brought it to my office here at home because it says you have to believe your numbers, Dick Benson. So you need to
Yeah.
believe like what your numbers are telling you, and so some we had a 1 year bogey. So basically, if we would lose enough in the first year subscription, and we knew everything about our renewal rates, we knew everything about how much we cross-sell and upsell those new subscribers, that we knew
Hmm.
that we'd make back the money in 1 year. Plus, we had
Yeah.
enough cash to support that. So we could keep mailing the new people while we're watching the renewals and watching the back end. And that was the guiding principle of our subscription and book business.
So
And
that
basically,
translates to a cost per acquisition or cost per sale number, correct?
it
That you
does,
that you
but it
use
also
as
is
your
the second
KPI.
sale and the third sale.
Well, yeah, beyond that, of course, then you got into profitability. But you're
Exactly.
saying you even went beyond the first sale, the
Way
value of the
beyond.
first sale, and you were willing to spend more than that to acquire a customer.
I think that's the measure of a successful direct marketing business. It's when you because the thing is it's so hard, especially I mean postage just went up again. So in direct mail, postage was always going up. We always had
Yeah.
paper costs. To try to make money on a $29 book or a $39 book in direct mail in the first year was virtually impossible. We tried to
Right.
break even on books, but newsletters had renewals involved. So once we
Mm,
had a track record of renewal numbers, we knew across the board what the average renewal rate was. So there, I don't
hmm
want to get too in the weeds here, but it's a basic concept. How much
hmm
can we lose on the first subscription to make it back by the end of year two? And we were happy with that. Because what happens
mm.
is the cash starts to build over time. Now, the big mistake a lot of marketers made at the time is that they just went crazy and they said, "Oh, we'll make it back eventually." That's not what I'm talking about. You have
Yeah.
to be so disciplined with the numbers, but
Yeah.
it's an important premise because I think that enables you to be aggressive with your marketing
Yeah.
within some parameters that are based on real numbers.
Yeah. I'm not sure who said this, but I heard it not too long ago, and someone said, "Whoever, whoever can
Whoever spends the
afford,
most wins,
who
but
can
most
afford to
on
spend the most to acquire a new customer wins."
wins.
Yeah.
That's Dan Kennedy. He's known for
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
I think he's not saying
I think it's
just
been picked up
spend.
now by Gary Vanderchuck. I think that's who I heard
Yeah, a
say
lot
it.
of people pick up on it,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's true. In fact, Rich Schefren, a great marketer, said he has a great quote. He says, when you are because a lot of online marketers got into affiliate deals and they
Yeah.
felt they weren't paying for their media. Their media was free, basically. But it's not because you're going out on someone else's dime or someone else's list and you have to give them half of the sale. So that's not free media, just you're paying for it differently. And
Mm,
what
hmm
Rich Schefren said is that when you can pay for media, not organic search and not free media, but if you when you can pay for media and
hmm
make back that money at an
hmm
acceptable rate in a reasonable amount of time that fits with your P&L, your profit and
hmm
loss, and your return on investment, ROI,
Yeah.
then you have a business. You have a
Right.
business as opposed to a product or a promotion. A product is not a business, and a promotion is not a business. And the
Right.
thing is, a lot of people think they have a big winning, we have this promotion and it's crushing it, it's killing it. Well, what are you doing for an encore? What's your second product and your third product and your and your second promotion and your third promotion? You have to think ahead to look
Yeah.
in terms of the lifetime, and that's when you have a business and not a It happens on Shark Tank, people have a product, and the sharks will say, "What are you going to do on the back end? What are you going to do for the renewal? Is it
Yeah.
renewable? When it's renewable, that adds a whole. That's like the renewals on subscriptions. If there's a renewability in it, then you got a built-in way to add profit and revenue and profit on the back end, and that's when you have a business as opposed to a product or a promotion.
Well, and you're making me realize, of course, you have the direct marketing mindset, which I think is that where you were always thinking about creating marketing that was kind of evergreen and that you were able to repeat it with predictable results and scale it
Exactly.
up,
Measure and
right?
everything has to be measurable. You
And it
can't
wasn't
just
about
throw
like
stuff out.
let's do something this week and then let's change it next week and like let's just go with the flow. It was never about like I mean, it's that advertising mindset of like it always has to be new and different versus the direct marketing mindset of like, no, this works, man. We're going to repeat this until we beat it, you know?
Right, but you have to beat it. So Gary Bencivenga, the copywriter you mentioned, he
Yeah.
used to say, um, when he wrote a package for us, and he was one of the best copywriters in the world,
Mm,
and he would write a package for, he used to get an 80% success rate on the packages he wrote for us.
wow.
Interestingly, as soon as he got a control, like he wrote a package that became the winner for us, as soon as it became the control, he would try to beat it immediately.
Mm,
And so
mm,
that's the concept of the king is dead, long live the king, right? You have you have a winner, and
yeah.
the time you want to beat the winner as soon as it becomes a winner.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will rest on their laurels, especially in the online world, because
Yeah.
like with ClickBank and affiliates, you have a winning video sales letter or something, and it's crushing it. I'm putting that in quotes.
Hmm.
And there's no reason to test against it because I'm just going to collect my money now forever. Doesn't
Yeah.
work that way. Doesn't work that
Well, it doesn't work very long that way. It
way.
can work
Exactly.
in the short term.
Yeah,
We
you
used
don't
to
have the
call that
staying power.
strategy taking a
You,
payday when we were just going to ride the control and take
yeah,
a payday. But but then you need to keep testing because market fatigue can happen and you
happen
run into
anytime, happen
like
anytime.
declining performance.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, can you think of any really memorable tests that you did where you learned something that was surprising that dramatically changed your results?
Oh, I've got so many. They're all in my book, but I'm trying to think which
Okay.
one I should share with your audience. Um, there was one that was just sort of interesting because it told us that, you know, one thing you don't want to do is fall in love with a concept and keep
Mm,
banging your head against the wall until it works. But we did
mm,
do that, and it eventually worked. So we had this idea. Marty had an instinct, amazing gut feeling and instinct. And one of the instincts he had is that people love checklists. Like everybody has a checklist, a to-do list. So he decided our books were like greatest hits from our newsletters. They were like bullets and to-dos and like just actionable stuff. He said,
mm,
let's do a book in a narrow format, like a checklist, and we'll call it the Book of Checklists. And he was so excited about this idea, and he we produced it, and it just totally bombed. And then we said, okay, let's change the concept. It's still checklist and it's still the same kind of content, but we'll call it the Great Book of Inside Knowledge. Like talk about it as like, just amazing stuff. And
mm,
that did even worse. And then we took it to a world-class copywriter that worked for us then has. His name was Mel Martin. And Mel Martin was the king of fascinations. In fact, Bob Hacker's partner in crime, Denny Hatch, did an article about Mel Martin in direct marketing press at the time, the
mm,
master of fascinations. Fascinations were bullet points, and the bullet points would have a page number. And it was a concept that was made famous by Ralph Ginsberg in the 1960s and Gene
mm,
Schwartz and a lot of the great copywriters. Mel Martin just perfected it. And
mm,
Mel Martin looked at this book of checklists, now the Great Book of Inside Knowledge, and he said, your problem is that you're promoting it as either knowledge or checklists, and these are secrets. And he changed that,
mm,
but he also rewrote the package. He rewrote the best fascinations out of the book. It's like, Gene Schwartz used to say, copy is not written, it's assembled. And,
mm,
and he used to like take a book and pull stuff out of the book and then create fascinations from them. And that's what Mel was a master at. And so he had all these amazing fascinations. The book was originally the Book of Checklists, then the Great Book of Knowledge. He revamped the creative. Remember, the creative is the least important until it's not. Our lists were good. Our offer was good. We didn't
yeah.
have the right creative. And so he created a package. That was the book that mailed 9 million pieces in one mailing. Overall, it mailed 25 million over its lifetime. And yes, as the Book of Secrets, written by Mel Martin, it became our biggest blockbuster of one of the biggest blockbusters of all time. We had one later on because we borrowed again from the Great Book of Inside Knowledge. we created a book called The Book of Inside Information, which was
Mm,
closer to secrets than knowledge, right? Knowledge was a bad word.
mm,
Information and secrets were good words, but you still have to have the package to back it up. So it was a lot. There were a lot more details in this evolution, but it was a lesson in testing. It was a
mm,
lesson in the creative is the least important until it's not. It was a
mm,
lesson in, going with your gut is good to a point, but at some point you got the rubber hits the road and you test it and it sucks, then your gut's not so good anymore. And so, and so it's a humbling business being in direct marketing and direct
yeah,
response. But man,
yeah,
you can solve the problem by just putting your head down, figuring out what the element that you need to change is, and then, I mean, again, there's a lot more to this, and I outline it in even in more detail in my book. But that was the concept, and that was one that, after the great book of inside knowledge, after the book of checklists, we could have just thrown it out and said, let's move on to the next thing. But we had something that we thought was good at the beginning. It just needed a whole different positioning
just
and a way to look
needed
at
a
it with
facelift and a
and great
repositioning a little
copy
bit.
and a great copywriter.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, that's interesting because it makes me think of something that I've definitely focused on in my career, and that is making sure that we get lots of ideas flowing from everyone that's involved with the program.
Exactly.
Really that free flowing brainstorming of new ideas and new concepts, and then we try to not judge them, but put them into test and see if they get traction.
Exactly.
And we try not to, yeah, prejudge things until they're, if it's a wild and wacky idea, hey, let's put it out there. I
You
mean,
know what?
not every idea makes it to
No, no, there are some
a
really
live
bad
test.
ideas. Yeah,
Yeah,
there are
but
bad ideas. Right.
yeah,
But I do think that, it's important. It's a really important point, Rick. It's something that, you really need. You need to have it's the audience is who's going to determine it. It's, people move with their wallets, not with what you think. I had something on my mastermind call today. Someone was saying that, it's not about what you want to give your audience, it's what they want and what they need. And,
yeah,
you start getting that if your ego takes over and you say, I know what's good for them, you're gonna lose eventually.
yeah, right, right. We've talked a lot. I've talked a lot with other people on this podcast about jobs to be done, and that you have to keep in mind, what does the consumer need? What's their problem? What are
Exactly.
they
And
trying to
what's the
solve?
transformation you can make
Um,
for them, you
yeah.
know?
And then if we stay focused on benefits, consumer benefits, and serving the consumer's need, then it'll resonate with them. And, you know,
Yeah, it's not magic. We're not sorcerers. It's basically, there is some cooking up in a big stew, but you have to be
yeah.
really diligent and strategic about it.
Well, I think some of the copywriters that you're mentioning and some of those things that they used to do, the fascinations and the old school direct marketing tricks. I mean, or I don't know if I want to call them tricks, but
No, they're not.
tactics,
Yeah.
tactics and things, little things that people figured out. I mean, I feel like some of those things are slowly being lost on the new generation.
You still see
they're
them though. You see it in like video sales letters, people doing bullet points and
yeah,
yeah. I mean, it is diluted. I agree.
yeah. I just don't think there's as many people that are really studying what
No, they have
the old
ChatGPT. Why should
ideas.
they study it, right?
Yeah, we can just say write it in the style of Dan Kennedy,
Yeah.
and out it
Yeah, that
comes.
was like I learned a big lesson about that just recently. Because someone said, they said, oh, they wrote a package and they said write it in the style of Gene Schwartz, and it was like it was so sloppy. Like it had
Mm,
some Gene Schwartz elements in it because
yeah.
now what's happening now with AI, which is amazing, is that you can load up so much data into a bot, and
Mm,
now you can actually beat a control using something in the style of a writer. But to get the style of a writer is not just pulling it in from Google, you
hmm.
really need to input so much more. And that's what I'm learning a lot about AI now is that, there's so much availability of inputting, and the more you
Yeah.
input into it, the better the result's going to be. And then you can really write in the style of a writer.
Yeah. We definitely use AI in our creative process, but we don't use it like to completely write anything. We sort of are
Yeah,
using it to
draft. You get a
assemble
draft.
things.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's the combination of human plus AI interaction and collaboration that is really powerful, I
It's
think,
very
right
powerful.
now. Maybe in the future it's going to become, we can leave the human out, but for now, you definitely have to have human involvement.
No, and I also
Um,
think there's just a lot, someone said I've seen this quote floating around. It's like AI is not going to replace your job, but someone who understands AI at the deepest level will.
mm, yeah,
Because if they can understand it and apply it and then add the human touch, one of the
yeah,
copywriting coaches, Kevin Rogers, had a blog post, and it's like, do you want to be the best or a bot? And he went into the fact that, you can get a good draft out of
hmm,
ChatGPT, but to really still be, to really create a unique piece of copy and a unique selling proposition requires the human touch still. Now,
yeah,
again, as you say, it's changing by the minute and it's getting more sophisticated
yeah,
by the minute, by the day, by the week. So
yeah.
I don't want to say we're here and it's always going to be this way. That's dangerous. But I think staying one step ahead and knowing that the human touch is still very, very important is
Yeah.
something that I'm going to stick by until I die anyway.
Well, you described yourself as the bridge between old and new media. What direct marketing principles have surprised you by thriving in the digital channels?
I got to tell you, almost every single one.
Okay.
I can't think of one off the top of my head that hasn't survived in some form, whether it's
Yeah.
lifetime value, whether it's the 41-39-20 rule,
Yeah.
whether it's RFM, recency, frequency, monetary value.
Mm,
They're not just principles, they're not just rules of thumb. It's the way people behave.
mm,
Gene Schwartz wrote Breakthrough Advertising, the book in 1966. I have the exclusive rights to it with Gene's wife. We've sold 15,000 copies at $125 each in
mm,
75 countries since I
mm,
started Titans Marketing in 2015. And those principles, that book written in 1966 is 100% relevant to everything in marketing and copywriting today. Why? Because it's based on human behavior. Human
mm,
behavior hasn't changed. In fact, in the afterword I wrote for the book in the edition for Titans Marketing, I think the first sentence is something like human behavior hasn't changed since Gene wrote this book in 1966. Actually,
mm,
I don't think human behavior has changed since 1066. Humans are humans. Technology is here, everything changes, but there are base human desires, whether it's greed, whether it's scarcity, whether it's all the principles apply. Now they apply in different directions. I'm not saying everything is the same. That's not what I'm saying. But
mm,
the way you phrase the question, every principle that is part of, in fact, I was looking at um, you know, just to do one for direct mail to online. When we developed, we were one of the pioneers in the Magalog, which was a format in direct mail that was long form, like 24 to 32 page promotion that looked
mm,
like a magazine or a tabloid magazine.
mhm,
That was a lot of sizzle, but a lot of steak. It would actually, in the early days of direct mail, when I started, in 1923, everything was sizzle, right? It was all like you don't give away anything. You just sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. They have to buy to get the steak. And
mm,
then with the Magalog, especially if you're selling a product that's not known to the public, like ours were. I mean, we had a
mhm,
newsletter that had 1 million subscribers at one point. Bottom line personal. It's the most unknown million circulation publication that's ever existed. And the
mm,
reason why we got to 1 million subscribers is the way we promoted it, because you're promoting a product that the audience doesn't know about. It's not on the newsstands, it's not on TV, it's not in front of their face. So how do you sell that? You have to
Mm-hmm.
sell it with a lot of sizzle, but a lot of steak. Like we would have articles in there, the 5 things to know if the car you just bought is a lemon, and you give them 3 of them. And for the other 2, they have to get the premium that's in the package. Very
Yeah.
traditional techniques that were used in direct marketing. The
Mm.
reason why I brought this up in terms of the digital world, when I started looking at um, like I don't know if you're familiar with product launch formula, but it's a way to sell digital product online. It was invented by a good friend of mine, Jeff Walker. Probably close to $1 billion worth of product have been sold online using product launch formula. Product launch formula, what it is like you have usually it's a digital product, like a course, a digital course, or
Mm-hmm.
or a digital coaching program or a mastermind or something like that, and you
Mm-hmm.
sell it with 3 videos and then a webinar, and then you open the cart on the offer, and then a week later you close the cart on the offer, and it's a confined promotion time. But what do you do in those videos? It's called pre-launch content. But what is it? It's content. It has value. It has
Mm-hmm.
like real stake. Like
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't buy the course or the product that it's selling, you'll get value from going through the launch of the 3 videos and the webinar. You'll
Yeah.
learn something. You'll get something of value. And I made the case in I'm in a mastermind with Jeff Walker, all people who do these online launches, and I explained this concept that, man, the online launch, the Magalog was like a precursor, and there was no online marketing when the Magalog was invented, that it's a
Mm-hmm.
precursor to the pre-launch content and product launch formula. And one of the other principles that it exposes is that in direct mail and offline promotion before the internet, it was hard because you're paying postage and printing to give
Sure.
away everything. You couldn't give away everything because, it was just more difficult. You couldn't, you need to save some stuff.
Right.
Online, you don't have to save a goddamn thing. Basically, you can. I always say that, people say, I got to save this is the content I want people to pay for, and this is the free content, and I got to make sure I don't charge them for the stuff that I can charge them for later. How about this? How about turn it on its head and say, give away everything for free up front? Because if it's how do you know what your best content is? How do you know what the best value is? The audience is going to tell you. And so if you have the confidence that what you're teaching and what you're selling, if you give away some of the best content in the free videos using product launch formula as an
Mm-hmm.
example, you give away the free stuff as much as you want at no charge, the best stuff at no charge, because you're going to have more best stuff that you're going to create later. But the thing is like holding back on your best stuff, that's but it's still based on an old concept in direct mail that said you have to hold back because otherwise, if you give it to them, then they're not going to buy it, right? Online, it's not the case because if you can keep creating new content that's just as good, it's all digital, it's all in the
Mm-hmm.
ether, right? It's not like
Mm-hmm.
in print. I just
Yeah.
think that's a sophisticated concept of how an old concept became a new concept, but they're so related. Now they're different, obviously. A Magalog is very different than a product launch, a digital product launch, but I'm trying to draw the what the similarities are and how something was derived from something else. I have something in my book, Overdeliver, where I say, I have a line in there. I say, I've never invented anything, and I'm proud of it because I don't need to invent anything. I need to innovate on a regular basis. And I said one of the most satisfaction I get in my work today is if I explain something, if I explain even on this podcast, if one of your listeners got something out of the 41-39-20 rule that they hadn't heard before. I didn't invent it. Well, I did. It was a variation of the 40-40-20 rule. So I could say I invented the 41, 39, 20. I didn't invent it. I innovated on it. And
Sure.
if I become the messenger for that, for someone in your audience, that's as satisfying to me as anything. But the problem is in marketing today, everybody wants to invent the new whiz bang thing, and the pressure to do that, it gets in the way of
Yeah.
really delivering value all the time. And
Yeah.
so it was a lesson. It's a lesson for your audience, and for it was a lesson for me that you don't have to author everything. I always give credit. I hope you've
Yeah.
seen in a lot of the stuff I've talked about today. I give credit where credit's due. I'm not looking to take credit for anything. I'm not looking to say I invented anything. However, if I explain, I remember in my book, I have a whole chapter on RFM, recency, frequency, monetary value,
Mm.
and list building. And it was not just about direct mail. And I had a couple of people come to me afterwards. They said, I've heard of RFM. I knew about RFM. The way you explained it, Brian, was got me to understand it. And I said, clearly, I said, you made my day by saying that, because that was my purpose, to have a few more people understand these core principles, eternal truths, fundamentals of direct response marketing and how consumers and businesses behave in the marketplace. If I can do that, my work is done here.
That's a part of the book Overdeliver.
Oh yeah, it's a chapter in Overdeliver.
Perfect. I'm going to check that out.
No, it's
Refresh my
it's just and it's not something that's hasn't been written about before, but I put my own case histories on it. I mean, that's what everybody does, right? Nothing's new under the sun, and yet it's new coming from a new messenger.
Yeah, I mean, some of the most successful things I've ever done beating control packages in a big way were actually looking at something else that was successful and saying, "Look at that worked over there. It should work over here as well. Let's try
Right,
that."
right.
And just making the link up between like, "Oh, you can do that over here, but you'll have to change it and
And it's
tweak it
not just
this way."
copycatting either. It's, yeah,
Yeah, you have to make it your own, but obviously there's not a lot of new ideas out there.
I remember Denny
Um,
Hatch used to say in Who's Mailing What, he used to say, he got it from Dorothy Kerr, who was the circulation director at U.S. News and World Report. I'm going back into the 80s now. And he had a phrase. He said, "Steal smart."
yeah,
That was Denny Hatch. And I took it to another level. I said, "Stealing is a felony. Stealing smart is an art."
yeah. Well, Denny started Who's Mailing What, right? Which has
That's
now
correct. That's correct.
evolved and
An
changed, but
archive of all the direct mail
yeah,
packages. And then
yeah,
it got expanded eventually to email as well.
yeah, right,
It's
right.
basically the ultimate swipe file.
Exactly. There's a term that the younger marketers probably don't ever hear, but that's what
Yeah, the
the
ones who
swipe file.
study the greats,
Yeah,
they know what a swipe file is. But yeah, you're
yeah,
right. It's a lost art.
yeah. Um, you said that you never met a medium you didn't like. What was your first aha moment when you were working with an unusual medium like ATM receipts or yogurt lids?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So um when I say I never met a medium I didn't like, if I saw something that I thought could create a direct response, like response, result, revenue, profit, I
Yeah,
would test it. And
sure.
the examples I give of, um, um, two things I really tested: the back of ATM receipts from the bank,
Hmm.
which were available at one point, and the back of yogurt lids. And those were only good ideas at the time. Um, Neither one, they were both disasters. But you know what? If you test, that's my other thing here from the war room at Boardroom. I took the thing, you have to believe your numbers, from Dick
Yeah.
Benson. The other thing that's up here in my office is from Gordon Grossman, and it's first find out if you have a business. And what that one means to me is that what is the minimum you need to do to get a statistically significant result that gives you a go no go decision. And that's
Mm-hmm.
basically, what direct response marketing and testing is all about. Now
Mm-hmm.
it's and what happens when I got into launches and online marketing, what I found is that when I heard other people who were doing testing online, they would test like 17 different things in the first test of the product. That's crazy. Find out if you have a business first. What are the things that you need to test? Because you can always test the other 16 things later. Or what do you need
Hmm.
to test to say this is this viable? Is this and that's just basic business. But
Yeah.
in direct response, it's even more critical and even more obvious because you're going for a measurable response. You
Yeah.
know, like why wouldn't you want to find out what the minimum you need to do as opposed to spend all that money on all that extra testing and everything else and
Hmm.
developing extra videos or developing extra promotion or whatever until you know that you've got something. Now, of course, you need to figure out a starting point. You need to figure out what your initial premise is going to be, but that's where you have to go with your gut and
Yeah.
don't believe it forever, right? You're
Yeah.
gonna do. So there's a lot of gut, but there's also a lot of common sense and a lot of not throwing good money after bad.
I've seen a lot of clients or companies that where we've studied their direct mail program where they tried direct mail or direct response marketing in kind of a limited way where they weren't really testing enough.
And
And
then they said it doesn't work, right?
and they say it doesn't work. And that's the risk of not testing enough. I mean, in it's great when we have a large client with large budgets because then we can test lots of things all at the same time
Right.
and really figure out what the perfect optimization is quickly. But sometimes that's not possible if
That's why
clients are
you have to test the
smaller and they
right
have
things.
limited
Going back to
budgets.
your thing about don't test whispers.
Yeah. Well, we definitely don't want to start testing whispers. I think on a mature program down the road, you can definitely test and really optimize it.
Yes, absolutely.
But um, in Titans, the mastermind group that you're running, what are some of the unexpected breakthroughs that happened in developing that kind of a group?
Oh, it's been amazing. It's been going on. I had a live mastermind for
Mm,
8 years, and that was with 30 companies, CEOs and founders. It was 20 or $25,000 to join, uh,
mm,
and from there, I wanted to reach a bigger audience of less experienced marketers. These were
mm,
really seasoned direct response marketers.
mm.
Um, and so when I went like down to like from 20,000 to 2,000 a year, which is what
Mm.
people pay for Titan's Accelerator, um, I have 250 members right now. And what we
Wow.
do is I think the most when we do hot seats with members, that's where all the stuff bubbles up. Like people, and they have to fill out a form to do a hot seat, and it's either a problem or an opportunity in their business, and they have
Mm,
to like answer certain questions. I have it structured, and I
mm.
got to tell you, we get anywhere from 40 to 70 people on a call. And when you have an orderly, it's sort of like a brainstorming on someone's business in a way. But when you
Sure.
have that going on with not some people are very seasoned in the group, a lot of
Mm,
experience. Some people don't have a lot of experience, but they have really good instincts when they hear someone.
mm,
Everybody has an opinion on someone else's business, right? Um,
mm-hmm.
but the hot seats are just and the results have been amazing. I mean, we've had people
And
launch businesses.
that gives members the direct sort of brainstorming of the group and feedback from the rest of the group on their experiences and what they've learned.
Yes, exactly. That's
Wow,
exactly what it is. And
that's
and
amazing.
yeah, and it's I mean, the hot seat has been around for a while. Gary Halbert, the copywriter in the 70s and 80s, he kind of perfected it at back
Mm.
then. But it's been morphed and it's in different forms now. But I do a pretty good hot seat format. I took it from a lot of different masterminds that I've been in, and I made it my own. Again,
Mm.
didn't invent it, haven't invented anything, but I innovated for what I like to do with my group.
Mm.
And in 15 minutes of rapid fire ideas from season. And it's like having a de facto board of advisors. And the thing is,
Mm.
one of the rules when you're on a hot seat and people are giving you ideas is that you don't want to like, as they say what the idea is, you don't want to say, "Oh, we tried that, we did that, it didn't work." You got to like just shut up, take it in. And what I say to them is like, I say, if if someone comes up with an idea that you don't like, you have the rest of your life to reject it. You don't have to reject it immediately.
Yeah,
So
and you don't have to
you have
change their
15
mind about
minutes.
their idea
Yeah.
either.
I mean, you have 15 minutes with these rock stars of marketing
Yeah,
and copywriting. Like, take
yeah,
it in because, and you may take it in and your initial reaction is it's a bad idea,
yeah.
but it may, as the other idea, someone's going to build on it, and all of a sudden, a variation of that bad idea of what you thought was a bad idea becomes a good idea. And there was one woman sent me an email today. She was on a hot seat like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and she basically sent me an email with like 12 bullets of all of the people that volunteered in the group to talk to her about her idea. And she followed up with every one of them. And each one had a different angle, a specific thing that she could do. I mean, she's rocking it now. She's got a whole new business model, and she didn't take them all.
Mm.
But the ones she took, and now she's building her business, and she's rocking it. And that's not the exception. That's the rule.
Well, and that's a $2,000 a year
thousand
commitment
dollars a
for.
year. We do 2 to 3 live calls a month. This is the best value in masterminds in the history of masterminds.
Yeah,
Because
where do I
the thing
sign
is,
up? This sounds like my $2,000 value is right there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you're welcome. You're welcome to come. I'll even give you a discount for putting me on your podcast.
Hey, there
Um,
you go.
I mean, the initial, yeah. So it's an amazing group. It's like a family. It's like the Titans Accelerator family, and we also have a Facebook group, a private Facebook group where people can always put in a question, and
Wow.
the members will ask it. Um,
Yeah.
during the we have the best guest speakers. I said we had a call today, and we had an AI guy talking about bots where you input all the data, and we had another
Mm.
guy who is actually uh, he's like one of the top roofing, like a service business, and how
Yeah.
he's using direct response principles in his roofing business. And it was applicable to everybody in the group because, again, going back to what principles have you forgotten and they aren't
Hmm.
good anymore? They're all good. You know,
Right.
the idea of like, the philosophies that this guy is using to get roofing business can work for subscriptions. It can work for memberships. It can work for fundraising. It's like I'm just blown away by the variety of what we do in the group and how amazing everybody is so generous with their experience and that people will tell you where they screwed up, you know, and the mistakes they made, which is even more valuable. Yeah, it's a wonderful group, really is.
It sounds great. I'm gonna definitely check it out for myself and
Oh, I'd love to have you in the group. In fact, you have to we're gonna make an agreement though. If you join, you will need to do not if you want to do a hot seat, you can do a hot seat, but you're gonna do a Titan spotlight. Now, a Titan spotlight is when people in the group
yeah.
present in their genius. So you have to
Yeah.
promise me if you join, you will eventually do a Titan spotlight on RPM and what you're doing for your clients in direct mail. And we have some people in the group who are direct mail savants. I got a guy named David Foley who's from Canada. He's been doing direct mail his entire life. He actually has a newsletter. It's called Direct Mail Insiders.
Okay.
And direct mail is not dead, as we both know. The rumors of direct mail's death have been greatly exaggerated.
Well, I'll reach out to him and see if I can get him to be a guest on this podcast. So thank you for
And
that. I
he will
appreciate.
probably want to interview you for his newsletter.
There you go. Well, it is a small world of us old school direct marketing people, so we got to stick together, I
Stick
think.
together, but keep teaching.
Yeah.
I was going to say, keep preaching, Rick. You got to keep
Yeah.
preaching.
Yeah, I get on my soapbox every chance I get, you know.
Excellent.
I got to
Excellent.
get But thank you so much. This has been wonderful to get to know you, and it's been a real
Same.
pleasure. I feel like I could talk to you for hours and hours, but I think it's probably time that we wrap it up. So, one final question for you today is if people are interested in talking with you or learning more about your company, your books, your newsletter, your mastermind group, how should they reach out to you? How should they get in
So
touch?
the easiest way is to, go to my site, briankurtz.net, BrianKurtz.net. There's a lot of free content there. There's a sign up right away where the sign up is not to sell you anything. It's basically it's to download an interview that I did with Perry Marshall, who's a wonderful marketing guy who I'm good friends with. And he did an interview with me on like the three biggest successes of my career, which are all in my book also. But it's
Mm,
one of them is about the infomercial program I developed at Boardroom. The other is how I developed a list selection process at Boardroom. And the third is can't even think what the third was. Oh, how we created a book division at Boardroom from other people's content, a
mm,
$45 million book division. So
mm,
it's a neat interview. That's what you get. And then there's a lot of free content on the site. You'll automatically be signed up for my blog, which I send out every Sunday morning, every week, like clockwork at 6 a.m. Eastern time. And I don't sell in it. I don't do affiliate deals in it. I pride myself on not. Some people say I'm the director of sales prevention, um, but I
not
do
good.
offer educational products. Like in the PS, I'll talk about my mastermind in the PS. I'll talk
Mm-hmm.
about like this woman who I knew from Jeff Walker's mastermind, the launch mastermind. She just wrote a new book, and she's a wonderful woman on leadership, and she just
Mm,
wrote a new book, and there was an offer on Amazon to get her book for free in a short amount of time. So I had an offer in the PS for people to get that book for free. That's the kind of
mm,
stuff I sell from the
mm,
outside. I never take an affiliate commission. So
mm.
that's my basic, free business. If anybody would want my book, for a $20 book, what you get on the site, don't go right to Amazon. Go to overdeliverbook.com, overdeliverbook.com. And
Mm,
on that site is 11 bonuses that are worth, I think they're worth millions. A lot of them are priceless. There's like two PDFs of two classic books on direct mail, are applicable today.
mm,
Um, that you can get the full PDF. One is by Dick Benson, one by Gordon Grossman.
mm,
There's 19 keynotes that Jay Abraham has given. There's a swipe file from Dan Kennedy. There's some stuff from Perry Marshall. Um, just an amazing array of bonuses just for buying my book, which is like $20. Actually, it's $8 on Kindle. And um, so you go to that site, you then hit a link to go to wherever you want to buy the book. It's on the site. And then you come
mm.
back to the site, put your order number in, and you get all the bonuses for free at
Oh, wow.
overdeliverbook.com. Um, and
Awesome.
I'm not if you're interested in my mastermind, it's briankurtz.net /XL accelerator. Um, and that has but I'm not trying to sell a $2,000 mastermind on this podcast. That's not my game. I would just like to get to know your audience if they
Sounds like
want.
it's popular enough already. So I know maybe it's
Yeah, but
full.
I mean, I just want your audience to like be my audience,
Sure.
get them into my online family so they read my blog. I'm patient. If they want to work with me, they can. If they don't want to work with me, they don't have to.
Yeah.
That's my game at this point. And but the easiest way is briankurtz.net.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Brian. It's been a real pleasure, and I will hope to talk to you again soon.
I hope so, Rick. This was a lot of fun.
That's a wrap for this episode of Response Drivers. Thanks for tuning in. If you found today's insights valuable, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the show, we'd love it if you left a review. Got a question or a topic you'd like us to cover? Just drop us a message at responsedrivers@rpmdm.com. Until next time, keep driving response and making your marketing work smarter.